All right, it's NFL draft time, so I thought I'd take a different take. Like, everybody can give you a top quarterbacks or top wide receivers, and I've done those before. But these are my top 5 knucklebreakers in the draft. When I call them knucklebreakers, tough guys who if you get them on your team, they're going to be the old school. Look, you heard John just mention Jack Lambert.
Yep.
These are guys that he would be proud of.
Okay.
I heard when I was a kid, I went to when we were living in Bossier City, we went to the Independence Bowl luncheon. And Danny White, who I actually wound up doing a podcast with a couple years ago, was the keynote speaker. And he said about Jack Lambert, they used to just keep him in a cage, feed him raw meat, and show him videos of the quarterbacks. That's kind of how they did. These are guys who are in a cage and fed raw meat. They're not all offensive linemen or defensive linemen. They're various guys, but they're various levels of tough guys that are in this draft. And if your team gets them, I think you're in for a good, some good output from them over their career. So number 5. He's going to be picked a little bit later because he's from Northern Illinois. But this dude, Khristian Boyd, is a defensive tackle and absolutely gets after the guy in front of him like he insulted his grandmother. It is like I kept seeing him mention Jim Nagy, like put up some Senior Bowl video of him. So then I went up and looked, watched some Northern Illinois highlights just to make sure that this isn't somebody falling in love with the guy. He is again, a smaller school guy, but you put this dude in your roster, and he's going to get in fights in his own practice. Khristian Boyd, this is a guy to keep an eye on. I would say 4th round or below, maybe sneaks into the bottom of the 3rd, but I would say 4th round or below, a Saturday pick, but someone who you're going to like having on your team because he's going to mix it up.
It's interesting to me how kids' names are spelled these days.
Yeah, that is an astute observation. I know. The rest of the 4 guys you probably have heard of, but I did want to mention Khristian Boyd because if he does hit, it's going to make me look really smart.
All right.
Number 4, Joe Alt, tackle from Notre Dame. He could be the first offensive lineman off the board. There's a lot of guys up there, Troy Fatnow, Talisa Fuaga, Ola Fashimu, Faishawa. I can't ever say his name. But Joe Alt is the old school Notre Dame left tackle. And I don't see him getting past the Titans at 7 because they need a guy like this really, really badly, especially when you look going forward, pairing him with Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, who they drafted last year. But Joe Alt is a dude who will absolutely protect your quarterback with every fiber of his being.
Yeah, I mean, he's up at the top of all the mock drafts. So big dude, big time background as far as, his experience with the Irish and, a great player that's going to be a top 10 pick. I think the highest rated non-quarterback or wide receiver is what he's pretty much pegged at across the board from what I've seen.
Yeah. Number 3, Payton Wilson, a linebacker for North Carolina State. He's had some injury history, but
he'll be a Cowboy.
Oh, it's probably, yeah. Well, I mean, look, and he wouldn't be a bad, they got to draft a linebacker somewhere in this. And if Payton Wilson is the guy, or Edgerrin Cooper, or maybe Jeremiah Trotter Jr., which would crack me up considering his dad was an Eagle and a Redskin. But Payton Wilson is a guy who sideline to sideline, vicious, gets after the ball carrier. And I think the only reason he's fallen out of, say, maybe top 50 pick consideration is because he's had some injury history, but completed last year healthy, got through the draft process really healthy. So as we get to Thursday, I wouldn't be surprised to see if we take him fairly early on in the 2nd round because he does a lot of things that most linebackers can't do. And if you're the Cowboys trying to replace the now retired Leighton Vander Esch, that's a pretty good comp for him because I would have said that's kind of Leighton Vander Esch's attitude too, where he will break your knuckles.
Very good player. He's one of those that I voted for, a couple of those after the season, postseason awards type of, honors. But, another guy, like you said, is he healthy?
Yeah. Number 2, my man, Braden Fiske. I wish he'd been at Florida State for 4 years, but Western Michigan transfer, got better each and every week. And if you watch down the stretch, especially post-Jordan Travis injury, Braden Fiske played his best football after that, where the defense took it on their backs. I mean, he is not like an oversized defensive tackle. Like he's not in the Tavondre Sweat mode. I mean, he can play kind of all the positions mode, but he will get in there and mix it up. Again, I love him like a son. Maybe more than his actual parents do. But Braden Fiske is going to move up into, I'm going to say he's a top 40 pick, because people have started watching his film. He did great at the combine. All those things are coming together, and there's a defensive coordinator out there who's going to fall in love with this guy because of the motor he plays with and the fact that he is in an absolute street fight from the minute the ball is kicked off until the minute the game is over, and will be an asset to an NFL team.
Don't have much to add to that. Yeah.
Well, he played next to Verse, right? Is that?
Yeah.
That's not a bad 1-2 punch right there.
In fact, what they did later in the season was they'd put, if Verse was on the left, he would switch to the right. So they kind of had, they did a lot of stunts. It was very impressive. Now, Verse is a tough guy. I wouldn't necessarily call him the Knucklebreaker, but number one, and this is my favorite offensive lineman in the entire draft, is Zach Frazier from West Virginia. This dude. Absolutely. He's in the Mike Webster mold. Who was the center for the Bears in '85?
Oh God.
McMichael was on the offensive line.
Defensive line.
Defensive line. But there's who's the off but I know I'm thinking of him, and I can see him in my head.
I want to say it's not Tecklenburg because he played at Baylor, but there was a guy like that name, that similar name.
Yeah, like that kind of dude. Old school Ray Donaldson. Ray Donaldson was like that. Just Dermontti Dawson. He's in that mold of a center, Zach Frazier. I actually prefer him to Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, who's also could be on this list, but having watched him
Jay Hilgenberg.
Jay Hilgenberg, thank you. Jay Hilgenberg, that's the guy I was thinking of. But he is one who just, I could just see his fingers taped individually, but blood running down and him not caring. And then you say, whose blood is that? And he'll go, what does it matter? He's that dude, Zach Frazier. If you get him, your offensive line will be way better. And the Cowboys need a center. That's who I want them to get.
The grinder.
Yes.
He's a grinder.
Yes.
Still wonder what would happen Dallas. Who was the center that had the strange...
Travis Frederick.
Guillain
Barre, yeah.
Yeah, the Guillain Barre. Guillain Barre?
Guillain Barre.
Yeah, that was such a hellacious offensive line. And then again, it kind of started to, that obviously did not help when all of a sudden he could not play again. All right, Craig, thank you very much. Paul Catalina, thank you. Emery Winters dialing up 3